And welcome back to some sort of the Cool Jets podcast. Where it was Ben Blessington and Michael Nania. Michael, very special episode. Another friend of the podcast. We really dug into these special teams niche here. We're joined by new Jet Thomas Morstead, making his return. Was on the Jets in 2021. Had a really good season for them. Went off, went to the rival Dolphins. Whatever. We'll forget about that. But now he's back. New punter of the Jets. Thomas, thank you for joining us. How you doing, man?
I'm great. Glad to be here.
All right, let's start with the most recent news. You signed with the Jets a few weeks ago. Kind of take us through your free agency process. What was your offseason thought process like?
Well, the thing I've learned over the past few years, I had such stability. I was 12 years in New Orleans with the Saints. Was very well compensated and had a lot of success. And I just found as I've gotten older, the past few years, that no one, even no matter how well I'm playing or how consistent I'm playing, all the teams aren't looking to sign a 37-year-old punter. So they're always looking to get younger and cheaper. And so it's got to be a good fit. A team's got to be in win now mode, I think, to be interested in me and to try to not be so looking into the future and more looking into winning now. And I've learned that over the past few years. When I've gone to the Dolphins, they were kind of in that space last year, and the Jets are in that space this year. So it doesn't provide for a lot of long-term stability, but I don't think any gig really does at this age. So the pressure's on me to perform every year and be super, super reliable and consistent, be a great teammate, mentor to young guys in the locker room. All those things matter. And honestly, that's, I'm sure, a big part of why the Jets brought me back. Is because of those things that I demonstrated while I was with them a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine being on a win now team is incredibly important to players. Us as fans, I think last year was the first time we've got to see the Jets kind of in that situation since like 2015. How big of a difference does that make for a player? Because I mean, as a punter though, if you're on a bad team, you're getting a lot of reps. Maybe you have a good season. On a good team, I mean, I would imagine the mood is a lot brighter, and maybe it's a lot easier to get through those grueling days in the winter.
Yeah, look, I've had great seasons on elite teams, and I've had great seasons on not elite teams. So at the end of the day, we don't get a trophy for the most punting yardage. We get graded on how we do per punt, per play, and that's the name of the game for me, is being reliable. Whether they're asking me to punt one time or 8 times in a game. Every time the coach asks you to go punt, he thinks it's the best chance for the team to win is to have that play happen. And so, obviously it's exciting when you feel like you have a shot to win week in, week out. It's not only exciting every week, but it's exciting as your season goes along to know that you've got a shot every Sunday, because not every teams can say they think that, but there's half the teams in this league know they don't have a shot this year. And it's exciting to be on a team that does have a shot.
Yeah, and we're excited to have you back. And hopefully we don't see you too much. When you are out there, we know you're going to do well, because that's what you did when you were here with the Jets in 2021. And 2 years later, you're going to be playing under the same coach with Brant Boyer still being around. He survived 3 head coaches. He's one of the longest lasting coaches on this staff. So what makes him such a great coach, and what can you tell us about maybe some of the things you learned from playing under him a couple years ago?
Look, here's what I'd say. It was a huge healing process for me coming to the Jets. It was my first team I'd ever played on other than New Orleans. And nobody really wanted me. I'd had a bad injury in 20, and I had a down year for the first time in my career. And COVID happened. The cap went way down. There's all these things that synergized into teams not being interested. I think a lot of people thought I was washed up based on my first half of my 2020 season with my back injury. So all those things really were a hard thing. I came into my workout, and I'd met Brant before at the combine a few years prior. And, we just had a good energy. And at the time, they were just looking for somebody to plug a hole while Braden was hurt. And it was an opportunity for me to get my foot back in the door. And I don't, nobody says this, but it was the first year of a new staff. And so, I don't think Super Bowl was on the agenda that year. And so it was just an opportunity. The team was glad to have me. I brought a little bit of veteran leadership and did my job well while I plugged in. And Brant was great to me. I really enjoyed playing for him. He's he's a coach that, he played the game. He played the game for over a decade. So he understands what it's like to be a player. And sorry,
They're good.
you guys still see me?
Yeah.
And so he understood what the deal was. And for me, he just treated me really well. And we were on the same page with how we wanted to do things. And he just wears his heart on his sleeve, good, bad, or ugly. Where you stand at all times. And that's super, super valuable as a player. And that's one of the reasons I love playing for him.
Yeah, you also played under a Jets legend in Mike Westhoff. Granted, it was in New Orleans. What can you tell us about him? Jets fans are quite familiar with Mike. He was a special teams coach here during some of our peak years in the late 2010s. So what do you think about Westhoff as a special teams coach, and what wisdom did he impart on you?
I loved Mike. He's not for everybody. He's very, very difficult sometimes. But it's only because his standards are so high. Mike got after everybody. It didn't matter if you're the worst player on the team or the best player. His standards were so high, and he just demands it. And I loved playing for him. He didn't try to change how I punted, but he made sure I understood the expectations. And he said our punt team ran through me, and he put it on my shoulders. And I loved that. I had my best 2 seasons of my career playing for Mike in 2017 and 2018. And so, I stay in touch with him. I talk to Mike every 2 or 3 weeks still. He's now the assistant head coach of the Denver Broncos, which is a really cool opportunity for him. The Jets will be going to Denver this year, which is exciting.
Is that fun for a punter to go to Mile High?
Depends if it's December and it's, 10 degrees with snow blowing, or if it's 80 degrees in September. So it just depends. But I'll really look forward to seeing him. I stay in touch with him, and he's had great things to say about me in his book that he just wrote. And, I'm just a big fan of him.
Yeah, and I want to talk some more about punting specifics, because it's not often that we get to, talk scheme, talk ball, some more technicalities, with special teamers. We had Thomas Hennessy on a few years ago, and we got to talk through some of his film and, some more of the nitty gritty of what he's doing on the field. So we want to do that a little bit with you. So take us through a typical 4th down. How much directional freedom do you have in terms of where you're putting that ball, and how do you sort of work in tandem with your coverage team to make sure you get the best possible result?
Well, based on my experience with Brant a few years ago, it was pretty, easy going. When you have a coach that trusts you and knows how you play your game, and that synergizes with how he wants to do things, we really had a nice energy. He pretty much let me call the shots of where I wanted to punt the ball, and he was depending on me to put it where I said it was going to go, because we'd send our coverage team there, and you got a guy like Justin Hardy running down covering punts. Me and Justin broke records together down New Orleans with Westhoff, and we had a really good crew for a few years there. So, there's a long leash, or there was, with Coach Boyer before, and so and that's earned through just doing what you say you're going to do repeatedly, to where that trust level is super high. And so that's the whole goal, is to have that to where your coach is coming to you saying, hey, where's your best ball? Where do you want this to go? And you getting to make the call. And at the end of the day, when the accountability and the responsibility is all put back on your shoulders and you got nobody else to blame, that's the best way to play this game. So hopefully that's how it'll go this year.
So when are you making that call? Because you said, Boyer gave you a lot of freedom to kind of decide where you're feeling, where you want to put that ball. So is that in the huddle coming out when you're sort of telling the rest of the coverage team, all right, I'm going right, I'm going left, going up the middle? So when are you making that call, and how are you communicating it?
Yeah. So different games have different game plans. Sometimes we have a game where there's no wind and it really doesn't matter which way we go. And we may punt to a certain look. Hey, if we get this look, we're going right. If we get this look, we're going left. We may be playing in a game where they could quadruple team Hardy on one side, but the wind is dictating that we punt that way. Everybody in the stadium knows we're punting that way. So some games we won't even have a discussion. We know we're punting this direction because of the wind. And so a lot of times, if there is some decisions to be made, it's made right at the edge of 3rd down. you come over to the huddle and say, hey, here's what we want to do. And everybody hears it and we all confirm it. And then we all run out on the field and we execute it. It's pretty simple.
There was a game this year where the Jets lost on a last second punt return. And I've always kind of wanted to ask a punter, what is that thought process like? There's 10 seconds left. It's a tie game, whatever it is. But the last play of the game is probably going to be a punt. I think Giants fans might think of the Miracle in the Meadowlands too. Seems like Tom Coughlin wanted this punter to punt it out of bounds. Of course, Deshaun Jackson's able to run it back. The Jets faced that this year against the Patriots. So kind of what's the thought process at the end of the game, and why do we still see it happen where the ball gets kicked in bounds, then inevitably gets run back?
Well, look, I mean, you just watched the Masters this weekend, right? People make foolish plays. People make great plays in big moments. And it's never all on one person. But the way I view the game is you have to know what can't happen on a play before you know what you'd love to happen, right? Everybody would love to kick it 60 yards out of bounds every time. I mean, that's awesome. But, when there's 10 seconds left in a game, understanding that, if you hit a 30-yard crummy punt out of bounds, and that's the worst play that happens, and you get ridiculed on Twitter. What a shitty punt. Who can, at the end of the day, did the game get run out and you go to overtime? You kind of have to play those scenarios out, and nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, but I think that's just part of the game. You have to learn to play, is understanding in those moments what cannot happen. And then at the end, and it's on everybody else too to make their guy right. I mean, situations like that, I've had them where, everybody's got to pick each other up. Nobody's going to be perfect all the time. And it's just unfortunate when plays like that happen, because guys get singled out, and it's tough, especially, I think in that game, Braden punted like 13 times.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
tough conditions too.
That's tough on any team to punt that many times, to have guys covering down that many times in a game in those conditions. It's just tough stuff. And so, it's not an excuse for anybody, but, I think in my mind, I just have to know what cannot happen on this play. How do we lose this game when you get into those last second things? That's why sometimes you don't see teams kick a field goal late in a game, because they may be up by 2 scores with 30 seconds left. And they say, well, we could add to our lead here, but the only way we lose the game is if we give up a blocked field goal. And then they score a touchdown returning it, and they onside kick, get it back. And you know what I mean? So you have to look at some of those plays and just think about what can't happen. And that's having situational awareness.
Yeah. And, speaking of big returns, I think from watching the league all these years, one of the ways you can prevent them is having a punt with good hang time. So you could force a fair catch, let your guys get down there. But at the same time, you also want to generate that distance. Like you said, it's always great to have that 60-yarder and flip the field. So from your perspective, like if it's an open field punt, because obviously it's different if you're down near the 50 or trying to pin a team, but if it's an open field kick, how are you sort of trying to strike that balance between getting distance down the field, but also having that hang time to where you could help out your guys in coverage?
Look, a lot of that has to do with who you're playing. What's the score? What are the conditions? What's your matchup outside? Sometimes Hardy in the past would come over to me and be like, dude, I don't care if they double team me, kick the ball to my side, I'm making the play. When you got guys coming over to you begging for opportunities like that, it gives you a lot of confidence just to put it out there, right? And so at the end of the day, a punt team, it's a team, right? It's a team effort. You got to have guys covering lanes, guys picking each other up. If you see your buddy gets double teamed outside of you that's got contained, you got to fill that hole, right? And everybody's got to adjust like an accordion. So, all those pieces come into account. But at the end of the day, if you're out there thinking all the time, I've got to hit this perfect ball, it's a bad place to be. I try to keep things simple. At the end of the day, if you hit spirals that turn over and go where you want them to go, direction is the most important piece in this game to me. It's nice to have a huge leg, and I used to have the biggest leg in the league a decade ago. It's nice to have that, but nothing beats direction, because if you put that ball out of bounds, It doesn't matter what the hang time is. It doesn't matter how good the returner is. It doesn't matter if everybody on your punt team gets blocked. The play's over. It's kind of like hitting a touchback on kickoff. So being able to lean heavily on direction is a big deal, and that's what I try to do.
How do you and other punters in the league, or even just teams when they're evaluating punters, how do you evaluate your performance? Like, do you look at your film and just kind of take into account each situation and look at how it played out, or just the feel off your leg, or do you use certain stats like net yards or DVOA is a stat a lot of people use?
Yeah,
So how do you guys evaluate yourselves?
Look, there's a few. I like PFF grades. I think those are good because they kind of take into account. They don't take into account results. They just do distance, hang time, direction, and so that's a big deal. And then also you've got the punt runs do a really good statistical analysis with EPA per punt. So I think if you're at the top of that, it doesn't mean you are the best punter, but more than likely you were pretty dang good. So that they're all ways to measure yourself. But at the end of the day, you got to look at what is coach asking you to do, and are you doing it? And if you're doing that, and you can have transparency with your grading and understanding, how you're being evaluated, I think that's the best way to generate trust and accountability inside of any locker room and any team. And so that's kind of, that's one thing I loved about Boyer. I mean, I had a few balls that got away from me in my 7 weeks 2 years ago, and I'd come over the sideline and he'd be like, "Holy shit!" We were covering our ass off on that. I'm like, "I got it. That's on me. I got to be better." So it's just know where you stand at all times. It just breeds trust, and that's the way I like to handle things.
Now, Thomas, I've long had a theory. Michael's been subjected to this theory. I think our listeners have as well. I want to get your thoughts on this. If I have a son from the age of 2 through high school, we're going to the park every day for an hour and we're kicking footballs. We're punting and we're kicking, because I feel like it's a pretty sweet gig if you can make it. Do you have any advice for my future son? It feels like, there aren't too many variables. You're doing the same thing, repetitive motion over and over. Is this a plan if I get him out there every day for a few years? Can he go to the NFL?
Here's what I would say. If you'd have put me out on a field because you love baseball and wanted me to be a pitcher, I mean, I look like a pitcher. I'm 6'4", 230. I guarantee you, if I'd been throwing a ball since I was 2 years old, I would never even have sniffed 90 miles an hour throwing. I don't have the anatomy for it. So I hate to crush your dreams, but put your kids in as many sports as you can and let them play. Don't put them in travel ball early. Please, God, don't do that. Just let the kid go to the park, let the kid play, let him be creative, let him learn his own style. And then if one day he says, "Dad, I really want to do this," then you put the resources into that. But I really am grateful to my dad. My dad was a pro cyclist. He'd have loved for me to get on a bike, and I think I'm built for that sport. I know how to suffer. I love training, and cycling's a sport of suffering. And he would have loved it if I'd have done that. He never once pushed me onto it. He always just supported me, and so did my mom, and they still do this day. They go to a lot of games. And so, just let him play. And I think if you think you want to get him into kicking and punting, you don't need to do any of that. Just have him play soccer. And if they end up being a football fan, I don't know one kicker in this league that didn't play soccer. I know quite a few punters now that didn't, but I don't know any kickers that didn't play soccer. So just do that, and they'll figure it out.
All right, Michael, my robo punter dream is dead now, I guess. I have a question for you. My dad wanted me to ask this one. Do you know who has the record for the NFL's longest punt by any chance?
I want to say that was that Randall Cunningham, 98-yarder out the back of the end zone?
Well, that might be tied. I know the Jets have Steve O'Neill, 98-yard punt in 1969. So I'm wondering if you're going to frame a picture of Steve O'Neill above your locker this season and on. Maybe you can hit 99 year.
I think I have to. I think the days of 90-yard punts are over. No one's playing on AstroTurf anymore.
Yeah.
And also we don't have these wide open, windy stadiums where, you just get balls that roll and roll and roll down the field. So I think a lot of those long punts were back in the days when they were playing on that AstroTurf,
Yeah.
concrete carpet. But I tell you what, I would be happy with if I just have a consistency. I'm never trying to hit the ball more than 55 yards, honestly. So if I do, you can call bullshit on me. If I try to get some glory from it, I try to keep everything in the net, not too far, put some hang time, put some good direction on it, and let guys go make plays. And if you do that over the course of time, you're gonna have a lot of success.
Do you ever get any trash talk as a punter?
Sure, definitely. I mean, COVID was wild because there's nobody in the stands. You could hear everything. Guys were talking shit across the line. They were investigating past history and people's girlfriends and all
Really?
sorts
Wow.
of oh yeah, you could hear everything. It was bizarre. I guarantee you, if you guys interviewed specialists on that played during that time, they'd have stories of things they remember being said across the field that got in their mind for a split second and got them out of their routine.
Is there anything that you can repeat on this podcast?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
That's funny because like I've heard fans do that before. Like they'll research a player's birthday or something and like yell it out at them. But like to hear players doing that, like, and I think I think it was Kobe who like researched French and he sang it to Tony Parker or something.
Yeah.
So like that's
Yeah.
I like those mind games.
I'm all for the gamesmanship. I have a lot of respect for guys that take it to that level. So
now, Thomas, you have a few children yourself. Do you play Madden with them ever?
we don't own a gaming system. No,
that was my favorite question. I was going to ask if it's Madden and it's fourth down. Are you punting or are you going for it?
Yeah, I haven't played. I mean, honestly, I didn't even play much in college. So you're asking the wrong guy. Sorry.
That's fine. I mean, I guess you are an athlete. You went to the gym. Michael and I are recording this podcast out of our closet this morning, so I think you might have us beat on that one.
Only you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were curious to know. I mean, do you know a number you're going to be wearing yet?
I don't. I'm curious. I'm kind of excited about it. They've got this new number rule. I think specialists are now open to 0 through 49 and then 90 to 99. So you're going to have some specialists rocking some numbers that have never been worn before.
You're going to go for the big one? See. Go for like 99?
I have no idea. All I know is I'm sure my kids will have some opinion on it, but I always tell them I'm just grateful to have a number. So apparently my number 4 got taken away.
Yes.
And so unless he makes a number switch, I'll be finding a new number. So we'll see what happens.
I don't think it'll be happening because DJ Reed already gave up his number once to Sauce Gardner. And he had plenty of success in it last year. So I don't know. Maybe you should go for one of the big ones this year.
Well, he may be going for 0. We'll see.
That's true.
I bet you that'll be a coveted number.
Yeah, you're going to make a bid for Agent 0?
Let me tell you, I think a punter wearing 0 opens yourself up to a lot of scrutiny. So yeah, I'm gonna let that go to somebody else. I don't want to be called a 0 whenever I have some negative play or something like that. So I'll let somebody else go get it.
All right, Thomas, last question for you. You're welcome to the NFL moment. I'm always curious to talk to NFL players, especially a punter. Do you have any moments, probably from your time in New Orleans, now that you're a veteran, that you look back on as a very pivotal moment in your NFL career in terms of learning the game?
Learning the game. Yeah, I mean, this is not so much learning the game, but I remember being a rookie. It was the year we went to the Super Bowl. We won the Super Bowl against the Colts, and we were in Miami week 6. We were pregame, and teams, they warm up, they do their 7-on-7 full team, and then you kick an extra point or a field goal, and then you do a punt before you go in the locker room. So we kick the extra point and go out to midfield to punt it to the end zone, and I'm pretty sure it was Bart Scott was linebacker for them.
There we go.
Real loud guy. And I think he played also for the Jets, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
So he's standing at midfield, and we're punting the ball from the 40. So I've got to go across midfield. And he's standing there looking at me as I'm walking. I try to walk around him. He steps over in front of me still, and he's shaking his head like, you ain't getting on our side of the field. And so I turn around, and my coach is yelling at me like, come on, get set. And I'm looking at him, and I'm not going to, pick a fight with this guy. And then all of a sudden my punt team recognized what's going on. So I got 10 other guys coming over, getting in Bart's face. And I was like, I can't repeat what was said, but Bart was talking a lot of shit, and he was just trying to get everybody riled up. And I was like, damn, dude, Bart Scott is talking shit to me at midfield on an NFL field. Anyways, I just remember thinking like, damn, I'm in the league now. So
As a punter, cool. As a punter though, I feel like you might have some good kicks. I mean, you could throw a little leg kick out there if it gets heated on the field.
No, listen, I'm going to stay out of any sort of physical altercations. Don't need to have any injuries pregame.
Thomas, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. I guess last thoughts, if you have any message for Jets fans, obviously an exciting season upcoming. We're really excited to watch you guys win some games this season. Hopefully we don't see too much of you, but when we do, we know what you're going to do.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, look, I'm excited to be here. I'm going to give my very best, like I always do. I'm going to do my very best to be a great teammate, great mentor in the locker room, help young guys get along a little quicker than they may otherwise have done. And I'm just very grateful for the opportunity. I can't believe this is my 15th year coming up. And every year it's a new adventure, and it's exciting to be a part of. So I'm stoked. I can't wait.
Congratulations, and hopefully a year from now, maybe you have a ring on your finger from New York, and maybe Aaron Rodgers. Who knows?
Listen, that sounds like a great deal. I'll sign up for that right now.
Thomas, have a good one, man. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
And that was Thomas Morstead, new punter for the New York Jets. Again, a huge thank you to him for taking time out of his day to join us. We really love doing these interviews and plan to do a lot more of them this offseason. We will be back on Monday. A lot of draft content coming your way these next 2 weeks as we get towards the end of April. You can follow us at CYJ Pod on Twitter, Michael at Michael_Nania, myself at Ben W. Blessington. If you'd like to follow Thomas on Twitter, he's at Thomas Morstead. Go to jetsxfactor.com for the best place to go for Jets content. Subscribe to their YouTube. We post all the podcasts there. If you're able to, rate, review, subscribe on iTunes. That helps out the podcast a ton. And yeah, with that being said, we'll be back on Monday talking draft stuff. So everybody have a great weekend. Go Jets.